I would bet. They'll probably get your ass if you try to use that.
Yeah, probably.
The ghost of Alex Trebek will come after you.
Oh, we don't want that. Oh, hey, we're streaming live. Woo! Hello, everybody.
Are we here?
Mama Ruth is muted.
Mama Ruth is muted.
Oh, I thought I was unmuted. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Sorry, I just finished working out, so I'm still here at the club, but I'll be doing my show from here.
Excellent, excellent. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm a little hoarse this morning, or I guess I don't know. Does that sound hoarse?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
You sound a little bit, but how you're feeling? That's what we want to know.
You sound like you've been out all night partying, Christian.
Yes, I have been. I have been out with the MAGA terrorists all night long. Just
sorry, sir. It's mostly peaceful protesters. I learned from CNN coverage over the summer.
And they all.
You need me to bring you some tequilas to help the throat? You know, it's a good medicine, natural medicine.
My grandfather used to, whenever someone had a sore throat or a cold, would give us a shot of El Presidente. Is that a brandy or something? Or
it's a beer.
Oh, and it was like, whew.
No, it's like even better Tejade.
Oh, it was. Anyway, good morning, everyone. I'm Christian Cano. Welcome to Coffee and Panduse. Today is January the 13th. It is 1 week from today, Inauguration Day. So we will be talking, maybe we'll be talking about that briefly, but I want to welcome everyone who's joining us on Facebook Live, but also those who join us on YouTube and Facebook also. We are not banned from YouTube or Twitter or any of those.
Not yet.
Yes, not yet. So I want to welcome everyone. I am in isolation, and I will tell you during the show why I'm in isolation. We have two topics today, but before we talk about those topics, let's go around the Brady Bunch screen and introduce yourself and your imaginary button. Does anyone have the Brady Bunch screen on? All right. What I want to do this. Why don't we go Joel, Dr. B, Barbara, Mama Ruth, Stephen. Is that okay?
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. All right. There we go. Joel, you go first.
Hello, everyone, and good morning. I'm Joel Odom, Charlotte native, city advocate. And if I was to have a button, it'll be Medicare for all. If I was to have a shirt, it will be Black Lives Matter.
He's got a shirt.
I do. Okay, I'm done.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm next. I'm happy to lend Joel my Black Lives Matter shirt. Give me your address. I'll send you one. Everybody ought to have one. So Medicare for All is my primary button. And now with the unified Washington, I don't think that's going to happen in the next year, but it might happen in the next 2 years. There's possibility where there was none before. And boy, if you ever wanted an example of why we need national universal health care, it is something like a COVID pandemic. I mean, good Lord, this craziness we're having with the vaccine rollout and distribution, it wouldn't be perfect, but it would be so much better. It's an embarrassment how the United States compares to other countries in the percentage of people who have been vaccinated so far in our plans. And it's just a colossal joke. So that's my bandwagon.
Good morning. I'm Barb Bacon, and I'm a healthcare advocate here in South Charlotte, along with Joel and Dr. B. My two buttons are Black Lives Matter, and I say healthcare for all. And to adjunct to what Dr. B had to say, I spent almost 40 years in the pharmaceutical industry, and my pals and I were like aghast at this distribution. I mean, they've reinvented the wheel here, and it must be a flat wheel or something because it's just awful. So anyway, I don't know. Hopefully something will happen today, and we only have 1 more week. Mama Ruth?
Good morning, everyone. Dr. B, welcome back. Happy New Year. It's always nice to see you back with us. My name is Ruth Perez. I'm a community advocate for the city of Charlotte. and I am glad to be here. I sit in different boards around the community. And if I would have to have a button, I've been thinking about it. And of course, I support Black Lives Matters, but at this point, we need like a no bullying button against our parties. What happened last week was very, very terrifying and very disgusting. Also, I support Medicare for All or the other plan where we can have regular medical services for our community. And of course, I can't wait to go and vote for a Christian to become one of our city council. So he better start shaping up. All right. See y'all.
I'm Stephen DiFiore. I'm the recording secretary for the Libertarian Party of Mecklenburg County. I too would like to see Christian on the Charlotte City Council, but I have no influence over that because I'm not a Democrat. So, but you know what? I'll fingers crossed for you.
Apparently, neither am I.
Well, we could put in a good word for you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know what we could do? We could have a giant protest outside of the government center to tell the people inside that we want Christian Cano to be on that, on that dais. Because that always works, right? That always turns out well.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Uh-huh.
Stephen, did you use up your time or you still got to do your magic?
No, I'm good. That's all I got.
Hello, everyone. I'm Christian Cano, one of your co-hosts along with Mama Ruth. My buttons, especially now, is Medicare for All. I am in this bizarre gap where my old insurance expired December 31st. My new insurance, which is with a different company, started January 1st. So I had to switch primary care physicians. And as a result of that, I don't see my new doctor until next week. So during that time period, I don't really have a doctor to call and ask. They just say, and I'll tell you why. Anyway, a lot has happened since the last show. Those who watched us last show, we were all excited about the Georgia election. We were talking about.
And we won.
Yes.
Yes.
It was,
Well,
was
not all of us won.
Sorry.
it was.
Sorry.
That's right. It was a wonderful victory. And then after the show, because I was in Georgia, I started packing. I immediately went to go at the drive-through to get my COVID-19 test so I could come home. I had my cell phone watching CNN because I wanted to watch the debates, the confirmation. And then it all happened and I watched that for 4 hours, coming back and going, this is like, wow, I can't believe this has happened. And then of course, it just got worse. It was a perfect example of Trump's presidency. You think it couldn't get worse. It got worse. It couldn't get worse. It got worse. And it was just terrible. And of course, to read it later that he was just excited that all these people were doing this for him. And then, the one time he had to make a statement yesterday in Alamo, Texas, he says, everyone's told me that what I said was appropriate and everything was great. He's so delusional. I mean, it is just a different world. And then, of course, I wish some reporter would go, who told you that? So
he'd say, everyone. I mean, that's what he said for 5 years. Everyone, they.
They often do. They say it's the best.
So because of that, we're going to start off with MAGA terrorism. That's what I called it, MAGA terrorism, because I looked up the definition of terrorist, and a terrorist is a person who tries to, for their political views, tries to use force or harm or whatever the case may be. I didn't really look up the official term, so someone may have to Google that or look up I'm sure you would, Stephen. Anyway,
Right.
I'll look it up for you. Don't worry.
What they did, I think, was a domestic terrorist act. There's all kinds of terms being used. I think it was treason. I think we have a lot of elected officials that have been promoting this, and that it's going to come out that have been promoting it. Now we know that it's quite possible that some congresspersons could have been walking some of these people through the days before, just to kind of, I don't know if they knew it was being scoped out, but they obviously knew these people were, a little radical or whatever. Anywho, so we're going to talk about that. So I want everyone in 30 seconds or less, tell us where you were when you started to watch this and what did you think about it? Who wants to go first?
I'll start because I have the definition of terrorism up, so I'll
Okay.
do that. So it's the use of violence or the threat of violence, especially against civilians in the pursuit of political goals. So I don't know if Congress is civilians, but I guess technically they are.
Well, there.
And then there's also resort to terrorizing methods as a means of coercion or the state of fear and submission produced by the presence of such methods. So I will say the MAGA people who went into into Capitol Hill, they did make a really big mistake. The only criminal people allowed in Capitol Hill are the congressmen themselves, so they messed up on that point. So I was actually sitting at home, kind of strolling through the news, filling out job applications, the kind of stuff you do, and thinking like, oh yeah, there's going to be a protest in DC. Let me tune in to see what's going on. And there are a few independent journalists that I follow that were on the ground there, and it's like, oh wow, there's like 200,000 people there. And I was tuning in just about the time that Trump's speech was like wrapping up, and I was like, his speech is kind of meh, whatever. And then, like an hour later, everyone's right there at the Capitol, and for some strange reason, the Capitol Police were nowhere to be found. I mean, I thought they would have had at least the amount of presence that they had over the summer when you had the Women's March and the Black Lives Matter protest outside of the White House and all that. And those didn't, those got a little raucous, but no one got killed or anything, right? And not a whole lot of property got damaged. So it wasn't that, well, okay, not a lot of government property got damaged. So it wasn't a huge deal, right? And the news was favorable in their coverage. But this time it's like, you have some reports of one side of the building, people just being let in, and other reports, people breaking windows to get in. It's like, what's going on? And, I think a real serious conversation, investigation needs to happen about what the heck the Capitol Police were doing. What did these people think was going to happen? Are they really that daft and, out of touch?
Yeah.
Depends
Anyone
on
else?
direction. Depends
Barbara,
on
you want to go next, Barbara?
I think it really depends on direction, and from everything that I've watched so far, I was walking through my living room, I had CNN on, and all of a sudden I heard, and there's a mob, and I turned and looked, and I sat right down. It reminded me of 9/11. The minute I saw the first building fall, I drove home and sat in front of my television for the rest of the day. It upset me more watching that than I think 9/11 did, because I guess we're to the point now where we're over and accepting what happened at 9/11, not accepting, but it happened, and we dealt with it the best we could, I guess. But this is unlike anything I ever imagined would happen in the United States. My two friends in Italy have contacted me and said, what is going on? And I'm just like, I will never say again, it can't get any worse, because here it is. And I don't want to think about anything after Wednesday, but it was horrifying. But before we forget, coffee and
Oh
punch.
yes, thank you so much. And then we'll go to Joel, and then Dr. B and Mama Ruth. As we always do on Coffee and Panduce, let's salute to Coffee and Panduce.
You didn't see me going like this, like,
No.
hello.
I did.
Yeah, I'm fog brained. Is that what they call
Thank you, Barbara.
I
Our woman's language.
Also, I want to thank our Panduce sponsor, Manolo's Baker in Central Avenue. Our thoughts are with Manolo, who actually has COVID. He's in isolation as well. And, he is taking care of himself, but he's a busy person. So I'm sure he is dying to get by this. So Mama Ruth, Joel, Dr. B, do you guys want to add what you were thinking when it happened last week?
Well, from where I was in the car. And from just looking at and catching up on what I saw, it just turned my stomach to be. And I'm really disappointed in the strength that I just thought our government really had. Because something like this, individuals have to be held accountable. And the main thing to me you know, some people are saying, well, Trump didn't make them do it or whatever. He did tell them to come. He did incite it, and he is the president. He should be held accountable. You know, I'm disappointed in Mike Pence. I would have thought Mike Pence would have been more of a constitutionalist, and he puts America first, but apparently not, because I clearly kept hearing Trump say, and if Mike don't play ball, or Pence, you don't play ball, then oh well,
Yeah.
oh well. Oh, well. And so I do think individuals have to be held accountable. Homeland Security, the Secretary Chief of Homeland Security, he resigned, but you know, he still needs to be held accountable, because there is no reason why Homeland Security and the proper protocols and procedures were not in place to make sure no one really had to lose their life to senselessness.
Yep.
Because nothing was gained from that.
Yep. Well, yeah, I agree. Anybody else? I mean, I don't know if you even want to comment, Dr. B, or
Mama Ruth, you want to
Mama
chime in?
Ruth?
Well, she looks
looks
like
like
she's taking you out. Well,
Yeah.
I'll say that, you know,
Go
I
ahead.
think it's important.
I'll go
Yeah.
ahead.
Okay. I think it's important to look past the yahoos that were in the Capitol with their flags and Confederate flags in the American Capitol, and look at the congressman who aided and abetted this. I mean, the fact that even after all this, even after being locked down, with the concern that the door might blast open and people come in with machine guns and shoot up a bunch of our Congress people huddling in these secure rooms. I mean, even then, 7, I think, senators voted to overturn these results, and 120 or whatnot, the Republican representatives. They're the problem. And so if everybody listening to this hasn't already called Dan Bishop's office and any other representatives that you have and rail at them and just let them know how shameful and irresponsible this was, to do that is the gasoline on the fire of all these less informed, emotional, reactive people who are doing the actual storming of the barricades. So that's my view of kind of where the fault lies. Trump's Trump, but all these congressmen. And I read that they are concerned about their safety, that if they defy the base, they're going to end up like Lindsey Graham and Romney, who are attacked in airports as they're traveling. That could be dealt with. I mean, we have security forces that could deal with that. But just their absolute lack of integrity and spine and whatnot is unpardonable.
Well, Dan Bishop said he was backing Trump. So
Yeah, I know.
it's like, come on.
Mama Ruth, you want to comment?
She's on
looks
mute.
like-
And Dan Bishop, he's speaking now.
What's that crazy person? Well, you know, I've been following him very closely since it all happened, and he's actually been doubling down, saying that he's going to Parler, that he encourages all his people to go. He's not going to use Apple or Google phones, you know. But this is one of the things I think, if you look at these individuals, and yeah, I agree with you, Dr. B, you know, the ones that have been arrested, like the ones with the hats and the more the theatrical ones, they're a little bit off. They weren't smart enough to put masks on and all that to hide their identity. It was so easy to identify them. The ones
Well, they have no fear. They have no fear of repercussion because they think that Trump will take care of them.
Told him to go. The president told him go to the Capitol, so they figured carte blanche. They can just do whatever they wanted to do.
Yeah, I think the ones that we have to be afraid of were the ones that we can't identify, that may be members of our police force, maybe members of the military, maybe friends of Dan Bishop. I can tell you that if you've watched Dan Bishop since he first got into the House, the state House, from his bathroom bill to all the comments he makes to how he attacks people he's been running against, he's a racist and bigoted individual. And everyone has been afraid to just say that to him. And even when, I don't know if you guys remember, he is very similar to Trump. If you say those things about him, he threatens to sue you, which is one of the reasons he threatened to sue Robert Pittenger, was because Pittenger endorsed Ridenhour, and then Pittenger had said something about his endorsement for Ridenhour, and Bishop threatened to sue him, and of course Pittenger backed up. And I don't think Ridenhour would have backed up, but whatever. But we've got people who are living, Congressman Bishops. You've got to look at his postings. He's crazy. I mean, he is like the Lou Gomer, or what's the guy from Texas? He's,
Louis Gohmert, yeah, that guy.
he really is a racist, bigoted person. From his actions, his son at North Carolina State does the exact same thing. He promotes his son as this like patriot. If you watch him, Jack, he promotes his son, Jack. And I would never even talk about his son, except he's the one who's brought his son up on his Twitter feeds, you know, promoting him as a future patriot, you know, and all that. So Dan Bishop is crazy. And
well,
so
about this man likes to sue people. I'm not trying to be funny, but
no, but I think Dan Bishop is one of those persons you have to say, sue me. Prove to me that what you're saying is not what your average person would not be considered to be a racist and bigoted. Everything that he says when he attacks people, he uses, you know, black and brown figures in his clown, you know, ads and stuff like that. And so he really, I mean, people just have to call him out for what he is.
I mean, I know I wouldn't want to get sued. I'm working class, so I can't afford that. You know, in the American court system, it costs money to defend yourself in court, which is not something I'm a big fan of. And so if you're poor, you're boned, man. You just got to settle.
Well, there's nothing I would like, but would be a lawsuit from Dan Bishop, so I could say, yes, Bathroom Dan, let's go to court. I would love that. I would love to have that. So, anywho, I mean, this was really a crazy event, and what amazes me, and I don't know how anyone else feels about this, but there are some people who still believe that what occurred was not. I mean, I don't know if Trump enticed them, but I don't know how all that works. But I can say that for him to act like, well, it was perfectly, I don't know. I mean, does anyone care?
But we had already heard about it, Christian. I don't know if any of y'all remember when the primaries, he made a comment. He said that if he wouldn't win this elections, that he was gonna burn on fire. He was gonna do something about it.
Yep.
So we kind of had a feeling that this was going to happen. We were looking at riots. We were looking at, you know, whatever they did last week, it was already planned. I mean, it was something not as spontaneous that they just decided, oh, let's go and do a protest and see what happens. No, they had already knew how to go in. They had already had a very worked out plan to try to harm our party. Now, I wasn't aware of it last week because I was too busy doing other things until I seen the news. And it was very, very frustrating seeing our country battling into, like, friends that I have, Republicans, they don't know what to tell me because they feel also ashamed. I mean, I'm going to agree. Some Republicans are very, very supportive, but some, they just belong into the Republican Party, but they don't support this kind of stuff. And it's very saddened that you start seeing all these people that are very, very red bones Republicans, and they don't see it wrong. They applaud the whatever happened, and they still want him, the president number 45, to come out and do more or say more. Like, okay, we're gonna follow whatever you say. So if you keep on saying it was an unfair voting, it was an unfair election, then as soon as you say something, we're gonna come out, and we don't care if we get arrested, if we burn flags, we don't care what's gonna happen. We're just gonna go ahead and do it. I feel like they're robots, that they are just being manipulated by his words, and we don't want that piece of trash in our country. We definitely don't want that.
Well, 7 more days, 1 week. I think everyone has to be cautious over the next 7 days. I may not hang my baby Trump Pinata out.
Wait a while.
I may wait.
Maybe do it in the backyard.
Yeah, I may have to do it. I was going to invite Dr. B over. Well, I can't now. But you know,
But when you get better, it'll be fine because then you'll be immune. You'll have the antibodies and stuff, right?
That's right. I will say, and I want to see if what Joel thinks about this. Not only was I shocked, and anyone else as well, but not only was I shocked as I was driving, watching people climb the walls and all, because of course I'm thinking, what are the other countries thinking? And
Oh, I
is
know.
Putin going, this is the best thing I've ever seen? That's what I'm thinking when I'm watching this. But there was also this second layer of horror, and that was if a lot of those people look like me or were darker, that would not even be happening. And
Oh, yeah.
so there's this realization that I'm so second class, and I could never get a bunch of Latinos to storm City Hall here.
Yeah, you'd be
I
shocked.
mean, you probably could.
There's a great video I came off. Well, it's in the newspaper. It's in the Charlotte Observer this morning about some white guy in Walmart up in Mooresville who walked in without a mask. And so the manager happens to be a very nice black lady, asked him, put on, and he started going on, oh, you're just being racist. This is racist. It's like, oh, please. So again, if that had been a black guy and the manager had been a white person, when the cops came, he would be at the least down on his face with his hands cuffed and very likely dead, because he was mouthing off and coming back at the police. So if you want an example of white privilege and the stark difference with how people were treated at this riot invasion on Capitol Hill because they were white versus how the Black Lives protesters were treated this summer and throughout. That's it. So I encourage you to go to Observer Online and get the link to that video made by an 8-year-old kid who's sitting there, watching this kind of go down in front of him. So bless his heart. It's just mortifying.
There's definitely a perspective that needs to be put out there. So this is the conservative perspective, and it's important. And there are a lot of folks on this call and people who view and watch Coffee Pen Dulce and folks in Charlotte, because it's more of a liberal city, more of a blue town, who maybe don't want to hear that point of view. But here's the thing. When we saw protests over the summer, right, result in, small business destruction, right? We had, I think it was John Stelter, one of the guys from CNN, literally standing in front of a big building that had just been firebombed, was completely on fire, and was saying the words, "This is mostly a peaceful protest." When it's clearly a riot happening behind him, right? Now, maybe that was a bad editorial decision on their part for that particular protest, but perception makes reality for a lot of people. And so then you have, we had the protests in DC over the summer, the Black Lives Matter protests, that eventually ended up in citizens being hit with tear gas so that Trump could have his stupid photo op with the Bible in front of the church, right? And there wasn't a whole lot of government destruction of property, but there was a lot of like small businesses that were damaged. And it's like, and the media gave them cover, right? Maybe they should, who knows? It's like, oh, but they have insurance or whatever. But the right sees this and they go, okay, yeah, that's not good. And so when they have their protests, and here's the thing that people need to remember, the right, conservatives, they don't protest, right? So over this past 4 years, we had the Women's March, mostly liberals and leftists, right? We had Black Lives Matter, mostly liberals and people on the left. We have March for Our Lives, mostly liberals and people on the left. Those kinds of things are very common, right? It's like, oh yeah, a bunch of liberals out in the street with, it's good. It's good. A good fun protest is something I love, and I go to anyone in Charlotte that I can get to, right? But the conservatives almost never do it. So when the conservatives come, I was like, oh, wow, the conservatives are actually protesting. And, one of the things that they do is it's very different, right? The conservatives are typically top down in their organization. They're typically more militant as far as having actually, weapons and arms, right? The Second Amendment crowd. And when they get, amped up, it's a different kind of energy. And so they get amped up this time, and they didn't destroy any small businesses. They didn't damage any private property. They attacked government property, right? Which they view as like theirs anyway. And, it's terrible because, a group of protesters turned rioters, beat a cop to death. That's not good. Then, a cop shot one of the protesters dead, right? Which was a horrible thing to watch if you saw the footage, right? That's not good, right? But one thing you see is, instead of calling it a mostly peaceful protest or a riot, the news media, the corporate press, more or less, and because they have to, because if it bleeds, it leads, and they need to keep their metrics up, they go, oh, and it's an insurrection. And from the left, sorry, from the conservative kind of right-leaning mindset, right, they see, and that doesn't have to be reality, right? But they see, oh, there's double standard. Oh, we're not being treated fairly. Oh, no cops shot dead a liberal protester over the course of the summer when they didn't, even though people died, it wasn't cops who did it. And they get amped up. And then when you have deplatforming happened from Silicon Valley. Parler gets destroyed because Amazon Web Services breaches their contract. A bunch of conservatives get purged off of Twitter. They go to these networks that are, peer-to-peer, things like Signal and Telegram, which you can't get the other side, and they get driven into the shadows, driven into echo chambers, which are exactly what you need for radicalization, rather than keep everyone open out on the town square. If you have a conversation on Twitter, you have other points of view. If you have a conversation on Facebook, you can have other points of view come in, and it helps moderate the debate. Well, the Silicon Valley people really effed up when they pushed all these people off, and now they're gonna be conversating only with themselves. Reasonable people aren't going to be part of that conversation, and it's going to be worse. And the real sad thing is, the only people who can turn down the temperature, right, are exactly the people who don't want to. And
I'll admit, I don't care about him anymore. We've tolerated them for so long. I would rather the crazy people go to their crazy island, fight amongst each other, because they will end up fighting with each other. And I think most rational, normal people saw what happened last Wednesday, and you can't compare what happened last Wednesday with marches that happened this last summer. I mean, most rational.
Why not?
Well,
from their perspective, why not?
Well, that's their perspective. But the good news is most Americans saw what happened on Wednesday, and it was unacceptable. And I think that's why most Americans are using the free market system, as conservatives like to use, and we're saying, nope, I don't want them on my plane. I don't want them on my Twitter. I don't want them. If you don't like it, move to another country. I am actually at a point now, really, and I
think it's dangerous to have that viewpoint toward a section of the population that is more well-armed than most armies.
And some of them are long-term groups that feel emboldened by him, which is, I agree with you, it's very, very dangerous.
I mean, Jenny James Gunn talked about this a lot when she was on the show. Like, we have to come together and be more peaceful. Like, that's literally the way to get things to simmer down.
I don't believe you can come together when someone's been slapping you for 4 years, and then suddenly they say, oh, my bad, let's make nice. No, there's a time where you have to get over it for a while, and then you can come back together. But they don't.
We're not talking about Trump. We're talking about the 200,000 people who showed up. Why were they there? Why do they feel like they're not part of the conversation?
No, Stephen, I understand that. And I'm going to let Joel jump in, and then we have to switch to COVID. I understand what you're saying, Stephen, but just for me, I'm tired of talking about them. We've given them so much energy and time a lot of us aren't even focusing on positive things, that we're spending so much time on these individuals that I don't care about anymore. If they want us, they're going to screw up somehow. They're like the really bad employee that you spend a lot of time on, that you really just have to say, I got to fire and get rid of. So Joel, and then we'll switch to COVID-19.
Well, I just do want to say this. This is why, we as a people, this nation has faced something like this before. And what we've seen, what you're talking about, the right conservative wing or whatever, when they're protest and destruction of whatever, they've been protesting the right to conserve education. They've protested the right to separate us
to not wear masks,
bathrooms and housing and jobs. They've been conserving the right to separate us from healthcare, from wealth, from growth, from spiritual development. And so they've been protesting. And what we've seen January the 6th is the same thing that we saw in the 1960s when the Ku Klux Klan had the Million McMahon March, and they kept marching all up and down the streets of Washington, D.C., and you have members of Congress in the Senate, supporters of the Ku Klux Klan, and was out there with them, had their children with them. So when we talk about, well, the right doesn't really protest like that, and then when they do get violent, they've always been violent. I clearly remember seeing young men being attacked by dogs and shot and beaten and raped and cut. And so when we had to think of this, you have to really think of this from a real deep standpoint of where we are as a nation. And this Black thing is not just a white thing. It's not just a Christian or a non-Christian or a Republican or a Democratic thing. This is a human life crisis. We're in the middle of a crisis. And what we're right now, you're seeing, then President Johnson said it best, and that's why I always like to quote him. These people are at this point where they want to hit pause and they want to hit rewind. But time is catching up, and no matter what they do, I understand they do have the guns and they got the weapons and they got this and that. But you know, at the end of the day, people will not remain to be oppressed. They're not going to be satisfied with the bones and the scraps. And you're seeing that not just in America, you're seeing that all across the country, in China, Russia, and all these different places. People are getting up and they are revolting, they are rebelling, because you cannot oppress a people. No matter what you want to do, no matter what you got, the money or the guns, that doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, the people that don't have nothing to lose. So you have to sit there, and we really need to work on coming together, and we have to press play, because I'm a young Black man. There are young brown and Latinx young men and women out there. They're not going to sit there anymore and say, well, we got to wait our turn. Yeah. We're moving. Times are changing. And you know.
Joel, you're exactly right. And that's really what I meant to say, Stephen. Not as great as.
Yeah, no, Joel, that was fantastic. I mean, that's a message that gets fire in the belly of, almost any patriotic American. It's one I fully, agree with. Moving forward in the right direction is the way we want to go. And, there are different ways to do that. But yeah, like, move forward. We don't want to go back to the past, right?
Yeah.
Good, Joel.
And the people there, they with the Confederate flags and all this other stuff. Those are the people. Those are the people that want to keep us where we are. They want to hit pause. That's what they're saying. Let's make America great again. They're trying to go back. Mm-hmm. But too many good-willed, smart, talented, young, multicultural, mixed race, spiritual gifted young people and older people and seasoned people that want to keep moving. Life is going to move forward whether you're for it or against it. Yeah. But all ages are going to keep on going. And so to me, I think we need to set an example, a powerful example, by saying you can't tolerate it. And whether, yes, I do get that. Yeah, because of the color of our skin, they had Homeland Security there. But you know what? The most powerful message is that we know who's the thugs and who's the criminals, because that is just two different things, two different scenarios, and you had two different outcomes. That, like, to me, the Capitol, what does the Capitol really have to do? You're robbing, you're destroying stuff. What does that have to do with your message of really just getting?
Yeah.
Well, so, I agree. Listen, we got to move on because we don't have a lot of time left. and I know we probably could have talked all the show about this, but I do want to talk about COVID-19 because it's impacting me as we speak now. I am sweating up a storm. I am, we wanted to update everyone on COVID-19, but I also wanted to share a story with you on how easily you can catch it. So I went to Georgia to help with the elections. I left on the 27th of December after the holiday, after Christmas at least. I got there on New Year's Eve. I took a test to make sure everything was okay. I tested negative. On January the 2nd, after I had been crowd canvassing outside, not with people hanging, holding signs at corners and things like that. So I was never really around people a lot, wearing my mask, meeting people and so forth, knocking on doors, not individual doors, but businesses and so forth, just encouraging them to vote. And then a friend of mine who I was visiting at the time, we both thought we were being incredibly cautious. We made a decision to go watch a bowl game on January the 2nd. We went to that school's sports bar. They had a room set aside just for that school in the sports bar. As soon as I walked in, I should have known I was in trouble. No one was wearing masks. They all had beers in their hand. I walk up with my mask and I shook their hand. Hey, how are you? They had a long table like they do. They put all the tables together with the big screen. I said, sit me in the very corner away from people. I sat down. I thought, what could happen? I sat there. We ordered a pitcher of beer. I looked around. No one's wearing masks. Right before I took a drink, one of the individuals came, sat down neck behind us without a mask, started talking about, oh, what's been going on, and this. And I'm going, oh, I can't believe this woman is doing this. And, and I had a mask on. And I what is that? When your instinct tells you to flee, you should flee at the time.
Deja vu, get out of here.
Yes.
Fight or flight.
That's it. That kicked in. I said, it would be rude. I'm a guest. I'm the brownest person in this room. If I get up and say, y'all need to put masks on, I can imagine what would have happened, And so I felt the peer pressure, the wanting to fit in. I sat there, I took the mask off, got a drink, looked around, took the mask off. Another lady did come by, she had a mask on. She talked for a while. There were at least 30 people in that room. Only about 5 were wearing masks. I got so nervous that I booked a hotel room as we were speaking, went to check into a hotel so I could kind of bring myself down. Plus I was nervous that the person I was staying with also was being exposed as well and was not wearing a mask at that moment. So I knew I was in trouble. That happened Sunday. Wednesday show, I started having a little cough on that Monday or Tuesday. I had some crazy dreams Tuesday night. We did the show Wednesday.
You were sounding froggy. Yep.
Yes. I went to take my test, and they have tons of drive-throughs in Atlanta. Very efficient drive-throughs. I had to use my new insurance for the new test. Came back home. We had already made the decision here, until I get my test, we're going to wear masks. I'm going to sleep in the other room, kind of protect ourselves. As I was watching CNN that night, I went onto my email. The test results came in about 11:30 that night, and I saw positive. I was like, oh my gosh. My first instinct was, what do I do? What's the plan? That's just my hotel experience. Think of the worst case scenario. Move into the RV, do this. My second instinct, I'll be honest with you, how do I tell these guys? That was my second instinct, was after
the guilt.
Yes.
We're going to tease you a little bit now. We have to.
After how long we have been practicing and preaching.
I think COVID is enough, you guys.
Yes.
No, he's fine. We're gonna rib him. That's what friends do.
Yeah.
And then of course the third thing I was thinking of was how do we let people know how easy it is to fall on that trap, to do those things that you think, I've been doing so well, it hasn't gotten me now, it's not gonna get me, and something so, it is really, it's not like the flu, it's not like the cold. It is a very different beast. The first couple of days, I thought this was nothing. I had a really light cough. I started to get a fever Sunday night. I've had a fever for 3 days, basically. I get these crazy sweats. I'm sweating now, and this crazy smell I told Dr. B about. So with that said, because we don't have a lot of time on this subject, Dr. B, can you educate us? And
have you lost your sense of smell and taste?
Unfortunately not.
I've had lasagna. I had Taco Bell yesterday for Taco Tuesday because I couldn't go in the house, so it was brought to me. There is a smell I have right when I start sweating, which I'm doing now, and I can smell it. And that's the only smell thing that I've had. But I wanted to talk about something that Mama Ruth said. But first, I wanted Dr. B as well. Dr. B, I've been online. I have tried to look everywhere. What does a person do when you get this? I mean, there's not like a checklist that you follow.
Well, first of all, you made a comment about, well, first Stephen kind of said we can make fun of him because he's over it. He's not over it. My brother did almost exactly the same thing. Went to a restaurant on a trip. He's smart. He's a PhD scientist. Let his guard down one time. He and his daughter both got it. He came home and thought he was going to die for about a week, just like Christian. And then he finally got so bad. I mean, his pulse oximetry dropped. So he went to the hospital, didn't have to get on a ventilator. He's in the hospital 4 or 5 days, thought he was over it, came home. Next thing you knew, he almost passed out just trying to walk across the room because there's one complication of COVID where people form blood clots. They're having heart attacks, strokes, they're losing limbs because there's a hypercoagulation that goes along with COVID. So as a preventive, most of the times in the hospital, they put you on blood thinners. Well, so blood thinners sometimes cause bleeding when you don't want it. And sure enough, he was having a gastrointestinal bleeding. Oh. And he almost died from that. So he went back in the hospital to get blood transfusion. It ain't over till it's over. And that other great saying, Christian, you were talking about, how do we educate people? Biggie Smalls, one of the taglines, one of his greatest songs was, if you don't know, now you know. So, Dr. I don't know. In terms of what you do, once you kind of get it, as Christian, we discussed earlier, don't read anything on the internet that's not .gov or .edu, mainly from a medical school or a real legitimate scientist. There's so much crap in there. People are still trying to make the case that hydroxychloroquine is beneficial. And there's article after article after article that says it's BS. And I keep waiting for the day that Laura Ingraham on Fox is going to say, we were wrong. But of course, she's never going to say that because she's going to find some Yahoo bogus off the rails MD or scientist somewhere that's going to say, oh, no, this is great. I mean, when did they give up? So I don't know. I'm terribly sympathetic to you. I mean, we all have weak moments and whatnot. And I'm really sorry you're having to endure this, and I hope everything turns out well. But no, there's no magic bullet. Short of going to the hospital, you take care of yourself. You monitor your oxygen level with that little pulse oximeter thing, which you can get at a pharmacy. And you get sick enough to go to the hospital. I'm sorry?
Do you need one? I have one. Do you want it?
I'll go get one if I need one. But see, that's my point, and that's kind of what I was talking about.
You don't know if you find out that you need it, you're half dead. So get one now, monitor your oxygen level, because one of the things that happens is that people feel fine and their oxygen level, unbeknownst to them, because they're not checking it, goes from the 90s to the 80s and 70s. And finally, when it gets down into the 60s, meaning that you only have about 60% of the oxygen in your blood that you should have, then you start fainting and feeling bad and you go to the hospital, and by then it's too late. So monitor your pulse oxygen level at home if you have COVID. I think everyone should do that.
Well,
and if it drops below 90, then you need to get onto the emergency room.
Yep.
Well, that's what I was wondering about, was because kind of like I was telling Stephen, there's not like the CDC doesn't have like, these are the things you probably should buy. A thermometer, that item, have that at home. Like, I didn't even know that until you just told me that that's something that you probably should have. And I was mentioned to you earlier, should you just breathe through your nose? Like when I sleep on my side, I just breathe through my nose because I'm afraid if I breathe through my mouth, I'll get more of a sore throat.
No.
Is that lowering my oxygen level?
Nah,
I mean,
don't worry about how you breathe. Just breathe.
Okay. Well, that's my
Doesn't matter
point.
how you breathe. Now, in fact, if you breathe through your mouth, that's not as much. Physiologically, that's probably not as good as breathing through your nose. It's kind of like not having a muffler on your car, so to speak, and you hydrate the air, and it does cause more of a sore throat if you breathe through your mouth. But you breathe how you breathe, and when you're asleep, you can't control the way you breathe.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be concerned about that.
Or as I mentioned to you earlier, should you not eat or drink dairy products? Does that create more?
Okay, you're talking about things your grandmother kind of told you, and most of that is old wives' tale about what you should eat and drink and feed a cold, start a fever. That's all really kind of wives' tale. Just hydrate is good.
Yep.
But I don't know that you need to count. I don't know that you need to count exactly how many 8-ounce glasses of water you drink in a day. Just if you feel thirsty, hydrate and drink a little more than you might order. Make sure your urine is not real dark, which means that you're not hydrated enough. And get a good rest if you can. if you're waking up having fever and chills, it's hard to get a good rest. By and large, if you have the flu, you're not going to feel strong enough to do anything but rest, and so that kind of takes care of itself. But use common sense and follow science, not baloney and wives' tales that you read on the internet, and stay close to a medical professional.
So I've had so many.
And if worse comes to worse, I have some fish cleaner in the back if you need it.
Yeah.
So I've had so many family members who've been texting me, you're in my prayers and this. And one of them I had to reply back and said, I'm just praying for some good science and some good medicine. I said, and I've always joked with them to say, if I'm on death's bed in the hospital, I've said this on the show before, and if you're out there praying for me instead of getting the doctor to help me, I'm going to slap you when I wake up. So I know how powerful prayer is. It's like meditation.
Sometimes you need the doctor.
Yes, sometimes, but I do appreciate the prayers.
He's the doctor. I just gotta tell you, he's the doctor, surgeon, nurse, RN nurse, radiologist.
Yeah,
it all, baby. He it all.
Well, I know I'm going to be struck down now, but I want to say, Mama Ruth had told me once that she has a very difficult time sometimes wearing a mask. You don't know how difficult it is. Well, I guess I do, and she probably does or whatever. When you have a respiratory illness, putting a mask on to block your respiratory system is really, really hard. So I'm very fortunate that I am isolated in an RV and I don't have to wear one. But I can't imagine people who don't have this luxury, who have to try to wear a mask, who are around their family members. It is very difficult to breathe. It is very difficult. And then it kicks in coughing because you're like, and it's hard to do. And so it is, the reason I'm saying that was because I've learned how to wear a mask if I have to run inside, because the RV septic system and water is not hooked up, just electricity. So I still have to run in the house, in the guest bedroom, give them 15 minutes warning, run in there.
15-minute warning, go to the bathroom.
Well, because I have to protect everyone in the house.
You sound like a dog that has to be walked periodically.
I do. Hey, listen, we have
this is just more fuel for the teasing fire.
What was that?
Listen, you got to take care, guys. It might sound funny, but I mean, I know Kristen has baby pups out there, the 4 legs babies. I had mine, and when we all got sick, I didn't know. And as y'all know, my Rico, which was my French miniature, passed away June the 3rd, 2 days after I was positive. So sometimes we don't even know our pet had it or got COVID. So of course I understand Chris, how he has to protect everyone around. 15 minutes sounds funny, but it's a good way of protecting your own family.
So I've had to get all my masks. This is the best mask that I have. It was given to me in Georgia by the a union, and it's very nice. It has elastic and it fits really, really well. So I use this mask, and then the mask that Dr. B doesn't like, this one, because it has those vents. I put this one on the outside of it to keep it in place. And this is how I walk in the house, and it keeps all the air in, but I can only go maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and then it starts to get really, really uncomfortable, and I just start coughing. So I'm hoping,
well, if you're wearing a mask that causes difficulty for you breathing, then you're wearing a mask that's too impermeable, and you don't need to do that. You're kind of hurting yourself. So I think the general guidance is obviously N95 means that it takes out 95% of these little particles. But if you have something that's like 3 layers of cloth, it's not going to be N95, but maybe it's N93, N91. Who the hell cares? It's still better than just about anything else, and you'll wear it. So get something that's comfortable, at least 2.5, 3 layers of fabric, and you're going to be essentially as safe as with a tighter N95 or something that causes you difficulty with your breathing, and therefore you won't wear it. So got to use a little common sense here.
I'm embarrassed to say that as you said that, Dr. B, I just remember that I had an N95 mask in my car.
Go get it.
They impeached.
They did? Oh, okay. Well, on that note,
it's a start.
Yeah,
that's ending on a good note. That's ending on a good note.
It's ending on a good note.
He has what he needs.
Yes. So COVID-19 is very serious, and we need to continue to take this seriously. When I got back, I was all excited about 2021. Oh, it's going to be a new year. I've got a new puppy. But you're right. I have to be careful with the dog. We have a little puppy whose immune system is very, very, very sensitive. So I also have to be, make sure I'm not around the puppy, all that kind of stuff. And of course, our other dogs as well. And so, this is, we'll get through this, but I do wish there was more education. Hopefully with the new president, we will have more education and more things on this. But I do agree with Stephen, because we need to end the show. We do need to continue to open our dialogue. We continue to have those who don't agree with us on this show and talking about those kind of things. But I guess what I was trying to say, Stephen, I have what they call fog brain with COVID-19.
Yeah, we'll give you a pass on that one this time. That's fine.
What I was trying to say is, it's very difficult when we've been through all this for 4 years with Trump and his supporters, a lot of his supporters who enable him. It's very difficult to just wake up one day and go, okay, we forgive you. They put us through a lot of crap for 4 years.
I mean, I can empathize. I really do. As someone who's neither team red nor team blue, I get it from both sides all the time, nonstop. So I can empathize.
I hear you, Stephen.
Are you going to show on the upcoming? What are you going to do about the upcoming City Charlotte open at large seat? Are you going to talk about?
Well, I guess we could talk about it on the next show if that's okay, because we ran out of time.
That's good.
There is an opening for a city council at large. I think city council will be appointing someone to that seat. I personally believe it needs to be a person of color, preferably a woman, who takes that seat. That's kind of what I think should occur. And I think there's a lot of really, really qualified individuals who have been out there. And plus, we've got a new city council election going to be coming up in 2021. And so, we can probably talk. But next week's show is going to be inauguration. The Trump novella ends. Trump novella means like, the soap opera. Okay. All right. You get it. And
it's a portmanteau of telenovela and Trump. I gotcha.
That's right. Okay. See, after I wrote that, I was like, no one's going to get that. I was like,
no, we got it. It just wasn't funny.
Oh yeah.
Now it is.
No, but that's like,
now that I put my twist on it.
Yeah.
That's right. And believe me, I have, one of the good things is I have had I have not drank at all any liquor during this time, right? Because you don't, I don't know. Can I drink, Dr. B?
Don't drink.
Not considered good
Do
for-
nothing
You've
but
already
drink,
got the
Christian.
you've already got the COVID brain fog. You don't want to aggravate
Christian, do nothing but drink. Just El Presidente all the time.
Well, on that note, we're going to end. Please tell us who we're going to be, because I really am. You can't tell I'm sweating. I am sweating
Yeah,
underneath
you
this.
look a little shiny.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I wanted to do this for Stephen. We had this joke. Remember, Stephen, I told you that I can't stand to watch someone put this.
Oh, the chapstick. Yeah. No, I get. Yeah.
I can't stand to see what someone do it in front of me. And so
It's creepy. Now you just traumatize our entire viewing
now I'm going to have to
audience.
throw this away. So
Oh, yeah, that gets thrown in the garbage when you're done.
That's right.
You're better.
everything's got to be clean. So there should be a service to do like COVID-19 cleaning. You know how like when someone dies at their house, people come in and they clean everything. I wonder if there's a
There
service.
is.
Oh.
There is. Sanitizing. Yes, they'll come and sanitize everything.
Mhm.
But,
Oh, yeah.
bear in mind that probably accomplishes nothing, because there's so far no evidence of contact spread of COVID. It all seems to be interpersonal. So spray all you
Correct.
want to, throw away all your old lipsticks. I don't think
Personal.
those are a problem. Yeah, I don't think those are a problem.
So,
Yeah.
so
Whatever.
I know we got to end, but the reason that's a curious question, Dr. B, because see this mask here that we wear,
Mhm.
I can feel air coming out here. Does that mean that COVID is coming out there?
Yeah, probably so. Yeah.
Oh.
But at least it's not shooting straight out towards the other person. It's kind of deflecting it, you know? And so you don't want to get too wrapped up in the little intricate details of this thing. A mask helps. Now,
Okay.
don't ask me what percentage of air comes this way and put percentage and how many part. It helps. Don't get lost in the weeds of all that, because you'll find some reason to talk yourself out of wearing it.
Yes.
No matter
Yes.
what anybody says, a mask helps.
Yes.
That's-
And like you said, I have stopped Googling things on the internet, because every time I Google something, I get a little even more nervous and more nervous. So I'm just going to email Stephen and say, Stephen, do you know? All right. With that said, we want to end the show by going around the Brady Bunch screen. Tell us where you're going to be over the next week or so. Let's say, Joel, you want to go first, and then we'll go Joel, Dr. B, Stephen, Barbara, and Mama Ruth.
Well, in the next week or so, I don't know what I'll be doing. Probably just get my life together, with the upcoming local election coming up. So I'm just figuring out what's going on, what's happening, and what to do. That's all I'm just trying to figure out. I'll be home.
Keep on keeping on, Joel.
I'll still be largely ensconced in my little apartment, learning more about Black Lives Matter and trying to work on becoming an anti-racist, doing what I can to further the cause with Medicare for All. My wife got her first dose of vaccine Monday, because she's a little bit older than I am and across the threshold. I'm going to be waiting eagerly to kind of see when I can qualify for it. And I hope that the world sooner than later gets their vaccines and we can bring an end to this horror.
I'll be hanging out at home mostly, still looking for work, which is fun. This is getting into the election season, like Joel said. So as a member of a local political party, we're going to be looking for potential candidates, stuff like that. So that's always a fun process. And hoping that the new year is at least as interesting as the old year.
It's going to be messed up.
Interesting.
I think a little boredom is in order.
May we live in interesting times. May we live in
That's a
interesting
curse.
times.
That's not a blessing. It's a curse.
I am going to do what Gibby Harris asked us to do, since I'm in that senior group, and I'm going to be staying home. I'm researching all the places that will deliver me my groceries. My sister went out and got medicine for her husband. He just had a cold, and she's quarantined right now because they found 4 people that have been in that store got COVID. And I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. So I'm staying home.
Woo. Am I next?
You're next.
I don't know if many of y'all know, but my son suffered a car accident last night. He was impacted by a truck,
Oh,
which it totaled my Infinity. My car is total loss, and I'm glad he's okay. Nothing severe happened to him except for a swelling of his knee and his leg. But I'll be dealing with that today and the rest of the week. We'll see what's gonna happen. What's the outcome on that? Good thing that I had full coverage. I keep full coverage on all my cars, so I feel protected. I have a 74-year-old woman here, which is my mother. I'm still debating and thinking about the COVID vaccine since my mother was very severe ill when it started back in May and June. My question, and I forgot to ask this today, was I'm very concerned about getting the shot. Are they injecting the virus again into our body?
No. Ruth, please don't have any concern about it. I think it's
Okay.
probably one of the safest vaccines ever. That doesn't mean there are not going to be 2 or 3 people that have some bizarre side effect or
Okay.
whatever, but they are not injecting virus. It's a fragment of the DNA or RNA or something. It's not the virus itself. You might get sore and achy. My wife's muscles are a little bit sore today. That's very, very common. It's safe. Everybody should get it. It's not being experimented on the population. They're not injecting, identifiers for Bill Gates. Please get the virus and tell everybody
But
you know to get it.
even
Yeah,
though we
I'll
already
echo what
had the
with
virus,
Dr. B said. It's fine. It's a really new and cool technology. It's much safer than some of the older style vaccines. It's nothing to worry about.
so what about the people that already had the virus before?
They need it too, because there's no guarantee that the antibodies that are produced naturally from having it are going to be enduring. There's no guarantee they're going to last. And so I think the recommendation now is, even if you had COVID, go ahead and get the vaccine. So
I'm gonna have to try to do that for her. And also,
Definitely.
do we understand that, like, a lot of our community doesn't really understand or don't know, but the vaccine, it's gonna wear out, and apparently that's what I read. It wears out in 2 years. So we would
don't
have
know
to
that yet.
come
We
back.
haven't had the vaccine for 2 years. We've had
That's
the
my
vaccine for about
concern.
6 months. We don't know. So what are you going to do? Do nothing, or do this and keep your fingers crossed? So do this, and maybe it's going to be like the flu shot, that we need to take the vaccine every year or two. We'll deal with that when we get to it. But for right now, get the vaccine and don't worry about what happens 2 years from now.
Yeah,
Great.
especially if you're in the vulnerable category, you have a pre-existing condition, a comorbidity, you're up there in age, definitely consider it, because it's a good protective measure. It's like wearing a seatbelt. You
Yeah.
don't need a seatbelt if you're just driving along the street and nothing happens. But if you get into an
Believe
accident,
me,
you want to have
it
that on.
ask her
It
son.
really protected my son last night. So
Yeah,
yes,
and I'm
wearing a
glad your
seatbelt.
son's fine. I've
Thank
been in a
you.
few car accidents, and they're kind of scary things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will be in this trailer. Probably.
For 6 months.
Listen. I Googled and I thought, I just have to be in isolation 10 days. So I started the day I thought I got it. So 10 days would be today. That was not realistic.
No,
So
everybody's duration is different.
yes, I've already come to the conclusion, at the earliest, it's going to be next Sunday. At the earliest. I see my new doctor next Tuesday. Hopefully, and there's also, they don't encourage you to take the test again once you've tested positive. I'd like to know that I'm negative before I leave this place, but they're not encouraging tests to be taken again.
Are they going to take it when you get to your doctor's office?
No, they said no. That's why, like I said, there's not a lot of I called them and I said, do I need to take a test to prove I'm negative before I walk in that door? They said, no, as long as it's been so many days or whatever. But I don't really want to leave here, this isolation, unless I know I'm over it. And I know they say you don't show symptoms for 24 hours. But then I'm thinking, well,
I mean, I'd say if you feel fine for a couple of days, get a test just to make sure. I mean, it's not like they don't have plenty of tests you can buy.
No, but the reason that's important, Stephen, is because Novant, who I'm with now, They won't give you a test unless the doctor recommends it or you show symptoms. You can't just get a test. If you just want to get a test, like I have before, I was with Trine Medical Group, they'll give you a test just for asking for it. And they do it themselves. I have to go to the CVS and you have to do it yourself. I can't do that myself. And so I need someone else to stick that thing in my nose because I can't do it myself. And so anyway, I'll have to work around the system somehow and figure it out. But
I mean, there are plenty of urgent cares out there that'll give you the test. I mean, I wouldn't worry.
He can't go to one right now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Bear
but when
in
you feel
mind
better.
that what you're looking for is some sort of peace of mind. And there's, 99% of people I understand that have had it are not continuing to shed the virus, but some are. But bear in mind that these tests aren't perfect either. So you might get a test that's negative, but it might be a false negative. So just don't know.
Right.
If you don't know, you still don't know.
I just want to hold my puppy. So, all right. So with that said, we've run way over. Thank you everyone so much. I guess we found out as we were speaking, the president has been impeached twice.
Let me just correct myself.
Historic.
No, he was a previous question of something. They're voting on something. It wasn't impeachment. I don't think that's done.
Well, I did.
It'll come.
I did think it was so rich once again when he said yesterday, the impeachment's going to divide this country. It's going to. What have you done?
He did a pretty darn good job himself.
You know what's the funny part? He wants to know what's going to happen with his wall once he walks out.
All right, we went way over. Please stay on so we can thank everyone on Zoom. Thank you for watching us on Coffee and Bun. This is a very unique show. I don't wish this on anyone. I'm trying to feel up, but it's real. I'm gonna have to take a long nap after this.
You're gonna have to take a nap now.
Yes, so we're gonna leave on this song that I found. Let's see. 2021. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for Coffee and Publicity. We'll see you next week. I don't know, I found that song.